So, welcome, thank you for your time today. Let me know in the back, it's a big room, there's a lot of us in here. How's the sound? Can you hear me? All right. You guys have actually been chosen as a very special pilot program to be videotaped today. So don't make me look bad, first of all. Because of that, I'm usually a wanderer, but because of that, I'm going to be confined to about here and here. But I have helpers in the room. So we've got Josh Nelson here, Bill Markow in the back. We're three here to show you the PRISM system. Before I get into that, everything that we're going to go over today has a quick start guide or a reference guide, and I'm going to show you where to access that. So everybody knows where the Pasco County School website is, right?
Yes.
If you scroll all the way down in these links right here that says DIY Tech Tips. Does anyone know what DIY stands for? I didn't know that, I'd ask. Once you open that up, you want to go to online resources. Then you'll have a list, and it's alphabetized. Choose myPrism. It's not beautiful, but it's there. I mean, you've got a list of items that you're going to do. It shows pictures, arrows. So just to let you know, that's your resource to look up things that we've talked about today if you get stuck on what do I do now, at least as far as getting into the system. So, get out of my camera. Now, all right, so we got that set. We got that, right? So good so far? All right. Now, everybody should be able to see FileMaker Pro, and I'm going to show you how to get there. So when you go into open up your FileMaker Pro, some of you might be here, so you don't have to do it again, but I'm going to show you where I'm going to end up. If you click on that File tab, it opens up. You're going to want to choose Open Remote. It gets you this box. Some of you may have something in the box, and some of you may not have something in the box. So if you have this black icon that says PRISM in the box, you've already got your real PRISM set up. So you're not going to have to do what I'm going to explain to you next. But right after that, we're going to build a training site because we want to play in the training site so we don't access your inventory. That make sense? Okay. Notice this plus sign in the bottom left-hand corner. Once you click on that, it's going to open up a box to put the host internet address for your real training site. The host internet address is 199.164.71.31. Does anyone need that again? Okay. You're going to want to name it PRISM if you don't have one of these boxes, and hit Save. Okay. If you just added it and your icon isn't shown by either a purple folder or that black icon, don't worry about it. When you log in next time, it'll be there. But if you did do that, is everyone seeing something that says PRISM in this box now? Who does not? Okay. Now we want to create your PRISM training site. So we're going to actually, if you do not have a box up here or an icon that says PRISM training, you'll need to follow this next step. And we're going to click on that plus sign, just like we did before. And lo and behold, another host comes up, and you're going to put the internet address for the training site. And here it is. 199.164.71.125. Does anyone need it again? All right. You want to name that training prism or prism training, whatever you want to, just to differentiate between the real training or the real site and the training site. So hit save. Who does not see a prism training icon in their box now? Are we all good? Wait, hand, half a hand. Okay, now I'm going to give you a few tips. Notice the star that can be in your icon box for training, the Prism training site. If that is unclicked, it will show gray. If it's clicked, it shows black. For the purpose of this exercise, unclick it so it's grayed out. Now touch this box up here, that star box. It goes away. So if you're sure you knew that that icon was there and you log in and it's missing, it's because you need to press that box and that brings up all the items that are starred. So what I would do is save that way. That way when you press that box, it doesn't go away. So really that is a way of just keeping on your front what you log in to see, your most important things. And Prism is very important. So you will want to make that star right here on here. Does that make sense? Everyone there? So now everyone just go ahead and click on it. You're going to use your username and passwords in Munis or in self-service if you're going to check on your pay stubs or what have you. Does everyone see this? On their screen, not mine. Does everyone see this? Are we here? Okay. It does say click anywhere to begin, but first of all, I want to bring your attention to version 1.0. And that being said, do you know what that means? It's our first version. So yes, we do have it in place. It's also a work in progress. If there's any recommendations that you may have that it might, improve it, we'd like to hear that. We do, as a district-wide system, want to make sure that it functions good across the board. So to do something specifically for your cost center might not be anything that we can do, but we would like your feedback anyway. So let's talk about Prism. This is what it stands for, in case you were wondering. And what Prism is just your inventory database. So what we're going to do with your inventory database is look at it, learn how to search. We'll learn how to, in your search, create an export Excel sheet for you if that's what you want. We'll also be entering items, taking it from entry to transfer all the way to disposal. So we're going to do all that in here. Y'all are so lucky. So go ahead, touch anywhere in that Prism box. You're going to get a message if you have more than one cost center that you're approved in. If you're only approved in one cost center, it's just going to take you to the next screen. So does everybody see this? Who does not? Okay. This simply is your inventory. It's a list of every device that's in myPrism that's at your school or cost center. Right now, you can see across the top that the categories are brand, device, model number, serial number, barcode, date acquired, and cost center. And the reason I read all those to you is, one, we have to let the listeners hear all that. But two, these are actually sortable in every one of these columns. So if Josh wants to do a sort by device, he'll click on that, and it's going to ask him, would you like to sort the device in ascending or descending order? Because we like to give you those choices. So if you wanted ascending or descending, you can go ahead and click that. And what did you choose?
Ascending.
Ascending. So he chose his inventory in ascending order, and this is what, actually, I don't know what this is in there. There's nothing.
Those are new records that we created during the training.
Okay, new records that we created during the training. Thank you. So this is where you would find your list of your inventory and sort it from by device or any other way that you'd want to sort it. If you need to know the last thing that you put in Prism, what do you think you'd sort by? Just throwing it out there. Date. Awesome. Okay. And you can sort it by oldest to newest, so there you go. Okay, so you see these tabs down here? One says search, one says shows all records, and then one says export found set. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at those, but before I do a search, no, I take it back. I want to do a search first. Let's do a search by device, and Josh is going to pick iPad. And when he does that, anything that says iPad in the device column is going to appear. So if you need a list of these items in an Excel spreadsheet, you've already sorted it, you would come over here to the export found set, press that tab. It's going to ask you, do you want to continue? Yes. And what do you want, Excel or FileMaker Pro? We're going to choose Excel. We click on that, and all instantaneously you have an Excel spreadsheet on your desktop that says Inventory Report. Make sense? Any questions? Okay. So, I've already mentioned that this is your inventory. We did a search for iPad, and now we've already learned how that you can get an Excel sheet from it. But notice, at least in my list, I have some items in here that are grayed out. Does anyone else see that on theirs? That means it's not in your inventory anymore. Sooner or later, you will not see that anymore. We're transitioning into that being deleted from your records. When something's no longer in your inventory, you will no longer see it. But for now, if you see a grayed out item, that item is no longer in your inventory. So, if you want to go back to the records as they were when you first logged in, you would just click Show All Records. So, for the purpose of these three tabs, does anyone have any questions on a search, on an export found set for an Excel spreadsheet, or to show back all records again to refresh your screen back to where you were? Any questions on that? Okay. Now, just for kicks, click on any one of your device inventory in there. When you do, it'll, in my case, it looks yellow. I don't know what yours is going to look like, but it'll highlight that area and hit the Data Entry tab. This is going to give you the information, more detailed information about that device in your inventory. So, in our case, we chose a printer. I like that you did that too. So you choose a printer. It gives you the cost center, the manufacturer, the type of device. In our case, it's a printer. Now that is a drop-down box. You notice you're going to actually sort through there, and these are the items that you can choose from. So that is not a editable space. Space? Yeah, space. So it also gives the device description, model number, serial number, barcode, PO number, if applicable, the date the device acquired. You're going to have your original cost plus what the replacement cost is. Current assignment, if applicable. Now, in the current assignment, if you can choose administrator, staff, or student. If you do choose student, then you have two more fields that open up for cart and slot for that information that you can figure out how to log that in. Only in student does it do that. Okay. Also, current department and current room. Now, your current room number is the only, it's only limited to 5 characters. Why? Because that's how Munis is. So when this eventually communicates with Munis, those fields are limited to both 5 characters. So if you have a building 404-101, what would you recommend I do? Leave the dash out. What if I have 11-124A? Right? That's 6. What are you going to do? Well, you put what's reasonable in there, and you do have a comment section here that if you wanted to make a comment as to where exactly it's located is what you'll do there. Now, if you put more than 5 characters in there and you try and go forward, it's going to tell you that you can't, that it's limited to 5 characters, so it's going to make you come back and edit your field. Now, the reason why this room is so important is that going forward, we have property control employees that are going to go out to your schools and do your inventory. So when you have this information in there, they can access this and know where it is. So that going forward is what we're talking about here. We don't expect you to go back into all your inventory in here and update your rooms. Does that make sense? We don't want to create more work for you. Just going forward, we want to start documenting where the room numbers are and all your new items. So the last section in here says device in service, yes or no. If it were marked no, that's why you see the grayed items in your information there. So, okay. You can probably see this better on your screen, but on your bottom right, or maybe it's your left. Your bottom left, you see that there's an origin of record Munis. If it says that, this device is in Munis. And these fields here cannot be edited. The only thing that can be edited are current assignment, current department, and room number. Those are the only 3 things that you'll be able to edit if it's a Munis record. And we'll get to the process in that here in a moment. So, does anyone have any questions on the data entry tab? Diane?
For the room number, is it, you want the room that it's being stored in? Because throughout the day, ours are constantly being changed from room to room, and then the students at the end of the day put them all back in one room because we don't have enough parts for every classroom.
What would be easiest for you, I'd have to say.
Okay.
So, you know, I get that. But any questions on this data information? Okay. So once we're in here, we have a new tab that's appeared, and it says new record. Does everybody see that? When we click on new record, the origin of record is user, so all these fields are editable. So it would make sense that if I'm going to enter a new record, it would be a user record that I can put my information in. So to back up a minute, if this said Munis record, the only things you can change are who it's assigned to, room number, and department. But when you're entering your new information, it opens up as a user record, and you can edit any of those fields. Does that make sense? Okay. So everybody has a piece of paper that was handed out. It's basically a purchase order, or actually it's not a purchase order, it's an invoice. So what you've done is you've purchased a video camera for the amount shown, and we want to tell property control that it's there. So for the purpose of this exercise, begin putting that information in your however, before you do any, go ahead and do that. I'm stepping ahead of myself. So we'll just do our data entry. There are going to be some fields in there that maybe you don't have information for. You can either leave them blank or make them up. This is just basically for the purpose of building this record so we can see how it transforms throughout the life of the device. And I'll give you a minute to do that. In the meantime, who's got questions? We're entering a new item in here Does anyone know the criteria for what a taggable item is? What are the thresholds involved in that? Does anyone know?
Over 750 for a big tag, and AV, like cameras and stuff, I'll get a small tag.
As of July 1st, that threshold is now 1,000. So any furniture over 1,000 will now be a taggable item, and any electronic device, camera, printer, band equipment, actually all band equipment, they all need a tag right now. So the threshold that put anything in there for property control to issue a tag is $1,000 for furniture and $250 for any computer item. Now, you can also put anything in there you want, even if it doesn't require a tag. If you want to keep track of your own inventory on things that the district won't keep tabs of, you also can do that as well. And we'll show you how to do that here in a second. Okay. Before we go on, we have you guys have purchased a video camera, and we clicked on new record so that I can start inputting the data. And now to proceed, anytime I do anything new with a new device, I want to click on new entry in device history. So we'll go ahead and click on that. It brings up this line item for you. It's got the date, the device, barcode, and the serial number. The event box is a drop down. When we open this, it gives me all my choices. So right now, we have a video camera that we need to tell property control that we have it so that it can be issued a tag. Because of that, we're going to choose document property acquisition. Does that make sense? You've acquired it, so now we've got to document that we have gotten this, and that's what we're going to put in this event box. Is everyone good on that? Okay. If you see this box to the right, it says go to property acquisition, and when Josh clicks on that, this form appears. What's needed in this form is the person that was authorized to buy it, or the person who did buy it. I'm going to record the method of acquisition. In this case, we'll choose P-card. And if you do choose P-card, you can reference it with a P-card statement. You can get that from your bookkeeper or someone that knows. For now, you can write anything in there you should like. Now, there's a reason why PO isn't in here. And the reason that it's not in here is because when you order something through a purchase order, it arrives to you already in myPrism with a tag. Does that make sense? So you would only be doing this if you're using your internal funds or your P-card purchase, or if somebody gave you a gift for the school or a donation, a piece of property that you need to actually input in myPrism. Once this information is complete, you would hit submit. That submit will prompt a box that says, would you like this sent via email? We're going to say yes. You will see a printer setup box. You're going to hit OK. It's not printing anything. It's just creating that attachment on an email. And I want to stop right here to say that although we're in a training site, your email is live. So we don't want to send this email, but we're going to show you where it goes, okay? So we've clicked on, and I believe if you've got a Mac, then the email is in your drafts, but if you've got a Dell, I believe it pops up. Am I mistaken? I'm good, good. You notice it's got the attachment. You're going to send it to propertycontrol@pasco.k12.fl.us. That's where it goes. But you're not going to send it right now. But if you did, you're done. You just entered your acquisition. You just purchased a video camera. You've created this form. It's on its way to property control. They're going to get it. They're going to determine whether it needs a tag or not. And if it does, they're going to go into Munis, and they're going to also go into Prism and put the barcode on each, so that when those records talk to each other, you're going to have that in Munis and myPrism. It's not 2 records, it's 1. Now that doesn't happen immediately. It may happen, it may take about a week, because I think every Friday is when those 2 systems communicate with each other. Does anyone have any questions on that? Now Josh is trying to get out of this form by clicking the X, but it's enabled, or disabled I should say. So to get out of these forms, you have to press the return button. Now while we were talking, did everyone have an opportunity to create a document property acquisition form? Who did not? Okay. So we're going to take a few minutes, and if you want to practice with another one, now's your time to do so, and we'll make sure everybody's on the same page. How's that? Has everyone had a chance to create their own property acquisition form? So you realize that once you send that to property control, you've just entered your first item into myPrism. You do nothing else. Property control does all the rest. They will come out and give you the tag for that item. They will come visit you, which is why this room number is important. I don't think people believe me. Some people are like, what? No. In case you didn't know, property control will come visit your school and then deliver these barcodes for you. Okay? All right. So, oh, I actually said that already, but if it matches, yes. So, when it goes to property control, to Dina and Mark, if it's a taggable item, they're going to assign it a barcode, go into Munis, to recap, and also put it in Prism. If it's a match, this becomes a Munis record. And when it becomes a Munis record, can you edit all the fields? What fields can you edit? Good. All right, so now we just bought this camera, and now it's time to check it out to somebody. Somebody needs to use it, so this is what we're going to do. So what do we do every time we want to do something new in a device history?
New entry in device history.
You click that button that says New Entry in Device History. It's going to give you another line. It's going to have today's date and the event. So let's open up that drop-down box. Can anyone guess what form we want to use?
Equipment checkout.
Yes. We want to use MIS 192 Equipment Checkout. Now, we're going to access this form differently than we did the one before. Although when you do click on this, it's going to bring up the form, but this form actually has a lot more fields that are editable, so we're going to access it another way, and I'm just going to show it to you and you'll see why. So we go to property acquisition the first time, and that's how we brought up that form. Right now we're going to go into Click View History. When we go into Click View History, all your boxes are right in here, in your green area right in here, that you can edit. So we want to check this, what did we buy again? Video camera out. So we're going to put the person responsible for the device, Barry. If you don't know his Munis ID, that's all right, but we're going to want to have the checkout date there. He's taken a case and a power cord. That's all you need to do for the checkout form. The rest of the fields, if you notice, are when he returns it. So, for the sake of this example, we're going to go ahead and click on our form, which there's a picture of it to the right. How easy is that? And this form comes up. So it's got on the form that Barry's checked it out, what it is. And if you notice, all the way down by employee signature, there's a box. And the box says, click this box if you are the person witnessing Barry's signature. Well, that's what mine says. Yours doesn't say that. It probably says something else. So when Josh clicks this, it actually turns that into signature for Barry witnessed by Josh. So why would you think that's helpful? So a year later, when someone says they didn't sign for it, you witnessed them sign for it. That's an internal audit feature that was added to this form to just add more checks and balances. So you have a record of that it's in there, and you witnessed that signature. Now, I'm only here to tell you what the process is. What's been going on in your schools or what people want to do is another thing altogether. But all these forms need to be signed by an administrator, and they should have been the whole time as well. So for that reason, there's a box to the right that has a drop-down box of all the administrators that can sign off on that item right there. When you see that, you can choose the administrator, and then you're going to send them a notification, which is a form of an email. So you click OK. And this says, Donna, your approval is needed so Barry can check out the video camera. Going forward, we're going to add the barcode number in that email already so that you don't have to reference that yourself. And it also copies you. So that email goes out so that they know that a signature is needed for that particular equipment checkout. Now, it's Justin's birthday. If you're using an iPad and you have FileMaker Go on there, you could actually, and Josh is going to demonstrate this in a moment, he can actually show you how easy it is to do this and the benefits of that. Before we do that, I'd like you to work on your exercise, which is creating one of these forms if you haven't done so already. And we'll give you a few minutes to do that. So check out, go into your item, and create a checkout form while Josh hooks us up and shows you the electronic signature. able to get their MIS 192 equipment checkout form up and checked out to somebody? Who did not? Okay. Well, guess what happens next year? They're going to bring it back in, or whenever the time frame comes that they check it in. What you would do is use this same entry. We're not going to create a new entry. We're going to do a search, find this history, oh no, I didn't know what.
Well, it's just filling in information.
Right. So when this item comes back, you'll do a search, find your item. Instead of getting a new item, you would actually go into this item that you have and record that Josh Nelson has returned it on 9/20. So when an item is being returned, you're not creating a new item, you're basically finishing that form from the day it was checked out to the day it was returned back in. So that form comes back. On the bottom it says date returned. So you access this form the same way you did the checkout, but this actually has a date and the signature of the person that was checked out to and the administrator. Does anyone have any questions on that? So we're not doing a new entry in device history. When you look at your history in here, we're going to go to click to view history, and we're going to fill out the remaining portion of this item. Is everyone okay with that? Would you tell me if you weren't?
Can you do it one more time?
Yeah.
One more.
Did you have a question?
So I see on here that there's the person who it was returned to and the date. That makes sense. And then it says date property admins signed. And then date returned.
So that'll fill out when they do their signature. So that,
Oh,
on that form, when they sign, there's a date right there, and that'll
Okay.
fill out.
Got it.
That's where that comes from.
got it.
So to back up, in the beginning, we use these search bar tools to find your item. When you do, you would click the data entry button and you find your history here. So your history, on every item in your history is going to be here for the life of that device. So when that happens, when someone is returning something, you find the MIS 192 equipment checkout item. It was already checked out. Now they're returning it, and they have the date that it was checked out. You would go into click view history, and that's where you would put that information in. Good? Thanks for that question. Anyone else need that again? Because we're here all day.
So can you search by the user? Like if I checked it out to Joe Smith, can I search for Smith?
That's a great question. We've had it a lot. Not yet,
Okay.
but very soon.
Good.
That's
Okay.
feedback.
Remember, version 1.0, good suggestion. We're working on that one. So
1.1.
1.1.
That's the plan.
Okay.
All right. So we've purchased your camera. We've checked it out. It's come back. Now we decided we want to transfer it to another cost center. Maybe another school needs it. So what we're going to do now to move forward is to create a transfer. So what are you going to do first? Why? Because that's what you do every time you do a new device history. All right. You click your new entry in device history. You've got an event box. We're going to open it, and we're going to choose Document Property Transfer. Does that make sense? Because we want to transfer it to another cost center. Once that happens, you want to go up to click to view history. Now, because we're in training and we've taken one device and added 3 or 4 things to it, this sorts by day. You're never in a device 3 or 4 times a day. But because in training we are, you may have to scroll up here when you get to this to find your document transfer property. Does that make sense? So I'll back up a minute and show you what I mean. So, where were we? We wanted to document property transfer. I clicked view history. If you see these tabs up here, you may need to scroll back and forth to find the document property transfer up here. This is what the event we're looking for. So who does not see a document property transfer event in your screen? Is everyone there? We're creating this document because we're going to transfer this camera now to another cost center. You need to find the person authorized to make that transfer, and usually it's everyone that has username and password logins to myPrism. So it doesn't necessarily need to be an administrator. So you guys have the power. All right, what did we do? So Josh put in that he's authorized to transfer this item. He put his phone number, method of transfer. Notice it's a drop-down box. You have two options, only two. Distribution services picks up. If it's something really big that needs to be delivered, that would be the one you'd want to choose. In our case, it's a camera. It could fit in a car. We can pick district personnel. So that district personnel will put it in his car, and the person that's authorized to receive that transfer assigned for it is the name that goes in this field right here that says person receiving transfer device item. You want to put their cost center, destination, their number, and the delivery date. You got your picture of your form to the right. Click it open, and there it is. Now, remember I told you that in this form, you don't necessarily need an administrator. So if you're an RMA or a bookkeeper and you're completing this form, you don't need to send a notification to yourself. You just want to sign it. If someone else needs to make that have that signed, you would choose it from the drop-down box to the right, choose your administrator, and it sends an email to them. So you're going to send the notification. When you send the notification, it goes in your email. It's going to Donna. It says, hey, Donna, your approval for that video camera needs to happen for whoever we decided. Oh, no, I'm sorry. The trainings are coming together. This is a document. This is a transfer. So we need the approval for that transfer. So it's asking them, please log into Prism to handle the approval. It copies you on that as well.
What if you're the person authorized?
Then you don't need to send yourself a notification. You would just need to sign this form.
Now, what if there's somebody on this list that doesn't work there anymore?
You need to tell us who that is.
Email tech help.
Yeah.
Pasco.
Now, there are print buttons on these forms, and when somebody is delivering an item, you notice that it has on the bottom driver's signature. So although we do want this record in here as electronic, you can see that you may need to print these if the driver needs to sign that they've delivered it and what have. Does that make sense? And you also send this to property control.
After all the signatures are.
So once we have all these signatures, because we've notified Donna, she needs to sign this, she did, then you submit, and it goes to property control. And what property control is going to do is take that, change it in Munis, what the cost center is and where it's located. So then when that happens, you'll see it drop off your inventory when that occurs. May not be immediate. Sometimes it might take a week between Munis and myPrism talking to each other. So let's take a few minutes now, and if you haven't done so already, work on a property transfer form. If you have any questions, hands up. How did we do on the document transfer forms? Okay, so good. Any questions? So we've purchased a camera, we've notified property control by doing a property acquisition form. It's in myPrism, we got our tags, we checked it out, we checked it in, and now we transferred it to another cost center because it was just time to do so, right? We did that already, right? Okay. The next piece is disposal. Like, what happens when it's time to dispose of the item that we no longer can use? Now, the disposal piece is actually done in Munis. So, that being said, Bill will come and explain to us what that means in Munis. But before we get there, you do access the form for the attachment in Munis here. So does that make sense? Okay. Before we access that disposal form, I'm going to show you what other options you have in this drop-down box and what they mean. So, we want to go ahead and do a new entry because we're going to get ready to do a disposal, but before we do that, I'm going to show you the other options you have in your Dropbox. So we have the top one that says inventory. I think I mentioned earlier that you can actually use myPrism for your sake as well, and if there are items that you want to actually keep track of at your school that not necessarily need to be tagged, you can still do so. It's not something that the property control associates are going to look for when they go to your school, but if you're really liking that scanner and you don't want anyone to take it and you always want to know where it is, myPrism is your answer. And by the way, and I think I mentioned this earlier too, and then I had a conversation with someone while you were working on your exercise, and I'm going to repeat it because it was somewhat of a surprise. Your annual inventories are going to be done by someone in property control. They come out to you and they will do that. Is that clear? So you won't have to do that anymore. You may have to assist them on where the buildings are, but they actually will do the physical counting and locating of the items. So, okay. So your inventory. If you want to keep track of the items, if you have your own annual or semi-annual inventory, you're going to want to go ahead and use that inventory item for yourself. Or things that don't need to be tagged, but you want to keep in your inventory. Okay? Any questions on that one? Okay. The next one, transfer in same cost center. Now, some of you during our hands-on exercise chose this, and when you choose this, it doesn't create a form. So you were looking for the form to figure out, what do I do next? If you're transferring something in the same cost center, you're simply moving maybe a computer from Training Lab A to Training Lab B. So it's not creating a form, but it does update property control, you're updating where it is so property control knows where it's at when it comes time to look for it. So it's not going to issue a form. So if you're transferring something in the same cost center, not transferring out like we did, we'll use that. Does that make sense? Okay. Your next item is repair. If you want to keep a history on a device that's constantly being repaired or when it's repaired, you can choose this repair as an event. It's not going to create a form. You can put comments in the comment sections, third time this computer's getting repaired, what have you, whatever your notes are. So you've got your repair item there on your drop-down box for your records and your notes. Now, if something is going to be repaired, and a technician comes to your school, your cost center to fix it, that's great. But if they need to check it out, and I think we were talking in last class, I was talking about it as a best practice, but I do believe that the IT techs or the techs will actually go into myPrism and print an equipment checkout to have you sign when you show up at the school. Am I wrong? Vice versa.
Have it, the text will sign that when they take it.
Say that again.
So you'll do the checkout form just like you did for an employee, right? Except you'll sign it out to the hardware tech that's taking it. When they come back, you'll fill out the returned information.
Okay, so I thought the tech said they were going to do it.
No, it's the-
Well, it makes more sense. It gives you guys more control. That's what we want anyway. So when a tech is coming to pick up your item to leave the school, you would want to do an equipment checkout for that tech to sign. That was a best practice last week, but now we're thinking that's how we want it to go, so we would want you to do that. Yes?
So could we do it still as a repair or as a checkout?
The repairs for your notes. It's basically anything you want to know about that device, you're putting in its history. So if you choose repair, then that's really for your information.
It's not to check it out to repair?
Nope.
Okay, so there'll be 2 events for the repair.
If you want to keep history of how many times it's repaired or what's been done to each device for your records, yes, you'll choose repair. And then you'll do another one for the MIS 192 equipment checkout.
And you only have to do that if the hardware tech takes it.
Right, right. Because you always want to make sure, and that has the history of who has that device. Okay? And the last one on there is a non-capitalized furniture. It's a disposal. It's a disposal form. So it actually comes down here. It does generate a form, so you can see it here on the right, and Josh clicked on that to access it here. So a disposal of non-capitalization furniture equipment. If you have items in your inventory that are not tagged and you want them removed and disposed, this is the form that you're going to use to do that. Obviously, when you hit submit, it's going to go to property control and form. It will be in myPrism, not Munis. If you want it removed from there, from myPrism, that's your form to do so. Okay, stand corrected. So now it's time for disposal. We're going to click our new entry in device history, and we're going to choose document property disposal. We can click on that little icon there to get this up here. And what we're needing here, if you're disposing of an item, we need to have somebody, an authorized person that's well-versed in the area of what that device is. For example, computers or band equipment. I have no idea what band equipment goes for or if it's depreciated. So maybe a band director would be the one that would have to sign off on that for their opinion that it's depreciated. Somebody from IT, maybe for a computer, things like that. So you would need this form created and have the signature of the person that knows about that specific item to approve its disposal. Am I clear on that? Am I clear on that? Are we good on that? Now,
2 reasons.
what's that?
2 reasons for that, right? Expertise, and then it could be somewhere else.
Oh, yeah. Josh is a really good sidekick.
So for computers, who else would we ask?
So
Is that us?
with a computer, the hardware techs are probably going to make that determination that it can't be repaired, and they'll send it back like they normally do, but it'll have one of these forms with it
Got it.
already signed.
So the hardware tech.
Correct.
Does it have a reason on why it's being disposed?
So, yeah, so that's one of the boxes that we're gonna add, that Bill's mentioning there, because it asks for that in Munis, which he'll cover, but it will have a reason why it's bad. Can't get the part, it's obsolete, it's not worth the money, whatever.
So like back in the old days, we used to have red tags on things, so this is,
Correct.
okay, that makes sense.
See, either with the red tag or replace the red tag.
The ones that we know are already obsolete, that we're just using them until they die, does somebody else have to sign off on that?
Yes, and the reason why is twofold. The one is that you have someone with the technical knowledge to say, yes, that's obsolete, it's gone. But really, the second point is, so let me use a lawnmower for example. You buy a new lawnmower, right? So you want to get rid of your older one. But that doesn't mean that your older one couldn't be used at the school down the street because it's still newer than theirs.
Right.
So that's why we want to get somebody that is going to have more of that area knowledge, right? So if the plant manager would talk to their area manager and make sure that nobody can use that other lawnmower, right? Same thing. The hardware tech may want to see it beforehand because maybe there's a part out there they could grab for another repair or something like that before we just get rid of it.
Okay, but there's a stack of them that we already know, they're not getting parts, they're not supporting, they're not replacing.
Okay.
So moving forward, we'll put that on property control. Say here.
They still need to do the disposal.
Right, you still need to do the disposal form. So when we're ready to dispose of the item, this is the form we're going to go to. Our event is document disposal. We're going to find the person that's authorized to really acknowledge that it's being disposed of and depreciated. And in the future, it will have a reason or a reason code as to why we're doing it. That's actually going to be on this form. So this form will be signed by Josh in this case, because it's a camera. And once I have that, it becomes your attachment for what goes in the next phase, which is in Munis, which is Bill is going to cover now. So that being said, going forward, we will be using the myPrism. If you have obsolete items sitting in a storage room and you already have the forms and they're just waiting for someone to pick them up, you're not having to do anything in here. Make sense? Okay. So we've taken our camera all the way from acquisition to checkout to transfer to disposal. We've actually just created the form to disposal. Bill is now going to take over and talk about what we do in Munis for that to be disposed. Now, that being said, if you're on
is if that asset has been fully depreciated. And the way we're going to do that is we'll click on tile menu, so just in case your menu's not up, your menu now will come up. So from there, you'll click on financials, fixed assets, and then scroll down, and then you'll go into inquiry and reports, a little bit further down, sorry. I have a lot of stuff, that's the problem. Then you go into inquiry reports.
Why can't I see it?
It's a little further down.
Okay. Gotcha.
So then when you go to inquiry reports, you click on asset inquiry. So now your window has popped up, and here you're going to click on search in the ribbon in the left-hand corner, and you'll enter your asset number. Huh? Asset. Hit accept. So now your asset comes up. Now you want to wait to determine whether it's been fully depreciated or not. Currently we're on the main tab. You'll click on the additional tab. And then in the middle column, you're going to look at the current book value and the estimated salvage value. If those two dollar amounts are the same, that tells us that they're fully depreciated.
Sorry, we just got to that screen.
Oh, okay.
Back up a little bit.
Sure. So you're in the asset, you pulled that up?
Right.
Now click on the additional tab.
Okay, how do you get to this screen?
Click on additional, so you're in additional tab. Where is she?
She's at the menu.
Oh, click on financials. Click on fixed assets. Inquiry and reports. Asset inquiry. And now you'll put in your user. The first time you go in, you have to put it in twice. First when you log in, and then when you go into a window. So now you'll click on search, and you'll key in this asset number that I gave you. Yes. So let me know when you're there. So everybody's there at the additional tab.
Oh, yep. What's the asset number we're searching for?
The one that I highlighted for you. Because everybody's going to have permissions for different courses. Did I give you one?
I don't think she received one.
What's your name? Diane. See, I only based it on, what school are you from? Sandpine.
I got your email in the training.
Were you registered for this class?
Yep, you sent the email yesterday.
You didn't show up on my list. Sandpine. They have not been fully depreciated. And at that point, we have to reach out to property control, and they would give us a memo to let us dispose of an asset that has not been fully expensed. So once we've determined that we can go ahead forward and we've got all the proper documentation, now we'll go back to the home page. So
Sorry.
oh, that's all right. Which will bring us to the Tyler menu. And then again, we'll go through financials, fixed assets. But now we're going to go into fixed assets processing. And then there should be an adjustments and a retirements. Does everybody have that one? I just want to make sure everybody's been given the right permissions.
Fixed asset what?
Fixed assets processing. Pull it up. That's the one I gave you, right? Oh, okay. So everybody searched it, they found their asset.
I didn't find my asset, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. Do our TCM attachment. It's the disposal form that you created in myPrism. So we'll click on attach, the paper clip. And then we'll highlight fixed asset attachment under document title and click view documents. We'll click on new in the ribbon in the left-hand corner. Then when you click on new, your ribbon will change, and then you'll click on import. And then we'll import a document, choose file. And then wherever you save that disposal form from myPrism, or where you saved it on your computer, go and find it and you'll choose it. You'll then click import. We'll have to enter a date. We'll put the current date. And then hit save. You got to save it for it to save the attachment. If you just didn't hit save and just closed your viewer, it wouldn't save the attachment. So now we're going to close our viewer in the upper right hand corner of the ribbon. Are you sure you want to exit? Yes, we're going to leave the page. So now your attachment's there. So from there, we're going to go to do the actual disposal. We'll click on transactions in the ribbon, which will be in the upper right-hand corner. And you'll go down to disposal. You'll click OK. I think some of you guys might get an error message. Right. If you get that message, just hit OK. Update. Now, I handed out, or Michael handed out a second sheet that had a disposal schedule. This is where you're going to get your effective date from. On that disposal schedule, there's a date that you entered into Munis. So depending on when we're entering into Munis, so we're entering, today's what, the 20th? So we're going to be entering, we missed the 16th, so we're going to use the September 30th date, and then to the column next to it, that's the date we're going to put in, which is basically your effective date and retirement date, and that's also the date that the items go to the board to approve the disposal.
So that was 10/18, right?
Yes, 10/18. So when you enter the 10/18 date, you should get this message. You hit OK, and basically what that's just telling you is you're putting in an effective date we're currently in September, but you're putting in October an effective date. If anybody can't do that, let me know, because that's another thing we'd have to adjust their permissions for. Yours is processing, right?
It's been processed.
The ellipsis, and we'll select the disposal code based on what the disposal consent form said. So for this exercise, we'll use surplus 50, accept. And then we'll tab down to the reason code. Let everything default to where they default. And then click on the ellipsis. Click the appropriate reason code, and we'll use obsolete. Accept. And depending on why I'm using the obsolete, depending on why you were disposing of that asset, that's what you'll use. It'll be different for everybody for the asset, but most of the time it's usually obsolete. That's the common one. So at this point, we can either hit accept or tab twice. So now when you hit accept, I get this message. Most of you probably won't get this message because if the asset has been fully depreciated, you won't get that message. But I selected an asset that wasn't fully depreciated, you just hit OK. It's just telling me that, hey, you're disposing of something that wasn't fully depreciated. You'll just hit OK at that point.
Why wouldn't I try to change the retirement date to match this? It keeps going back to...
The approval flag on the left side should now be, say, E on it. So now, when we see an E, we can release this record into workflow. So at this point, all you have to do is now just hit release. So now that approval flag is going to go from E to a P, pending approval. So the first person in the approval process will be the administrator. So they'll get either an email or they'll see it on their dashboard that there's a disposal out there that needs to be approved. Once they approve it, and click on approve it so you can kind of see the flow. So you can see I picked I think it was River Ridge High School. There go the administrators. So once the administrator from River Ridge High School, and on this one there's 4 of them, so any one of those 4, once they approve it, it'll go to the next step, which is property control. Once property control gets it, they'll review it to make sure the documentation's there, the dates are correct, and once they determine it's good, they'll approve it. Once they approve it, it creates a report that will go to the board. Once the board approves those disposals, Conservation Services, they'll get back the report from the board saying the board has approved the disposals. They'll go into Munis and they'll approve it. And once they approve it, it will create a report in Distribution Services or the warehouse to go out there and pick up the item. So once they go out and pick up the item, they'll bring it back, they'll go into Munis, approve it, and that will complete the complete disposal process. And then when I send the import file to Josh to pull into Prism, that item that was active is now not going to be in service, so it's not going to show up on your inventory anymore as an active asset. So does anybody have any questions?
Where did you go to get to the approval?
Click on approvals in